When a business team has given you the problem statement, so what is the first thing you try to understand before even touching the data?
For any of the data scientists or data engineers, like what are the primary metrics that need to focus on, how the data has been performing over the past 2 to 3 months or maybe an year.
What is the first 5 things you look into that data set?
One thing that I used to always check whether every tagging or everything is functioning properly over the website.
How do KPI influence the entire modeling approach?
The metrics that somebody has to focus on will not remain consistent across any problem statement. It's definitely gonna vary.
When you got a data set, what kind of insights will you look into that data set?
The understanding of the data goes around the traffic, but yeah, the dimension that are followed by region, country, language, and product as well as symptoms.
When you are building ML models, like how do you decide which ML model you have to use for a given project?
While you're doing any case study or something like that, or while you are reading through the data, studies, everything, we get to understand what models can be used.
In this choosing AML models also, can AI agents choose the ML models?
We are using Gemini or ChatGPT. If I ask them, this is the kind of data, this is the problem statement, please suggest me what machine learning approach I can go with. The Gemini itself would suggest a lot of options.
How do dashboards influence the business decisions?
So anybody who's looking at the dashboard needs to be easily understand what is going on in the data.
How exactly are you using AI agents in order to automate dashboards? AI agents. So we are hearing this term left and right, top and bottom. So these days people are using AI agents for their personal work, and very few people are using these AI agents in their professional work. So for this podcast, I brought you a guest who are using AI agents in her professional workflow. So the guest for today's podcast is Ishita Rai, where she is currently working as a decision scientist at Fractal Analytics. So in this podcast, we will find out how she is leveraging AI agents in her data science workflow. So if you are someone who are preparing for data science roles, or if you are someone who are exploring latest updates on technology, make sure you watch this entire podcast. So without any further ado, let's get started. So hi Ishita, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, hi Joshua. Thanks for having me today on this podcast. And yeah, I think you gave a great description about me. So, for everyone who is here for the first time or looking forward towards starting their career into data science and AI agents, I hope I can be of some help to all the audience who is engaging with your content.
So Ishita, we will start this podcast with your introduction. So can you briefly introduce about yourself to our audience?
Okay, so thank you, Joshua, for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. As Joshua already mentioned, I'm working as a decision scientist at Fractal Analytics, and I'm working mostly around AI, machine learning, and data science part, where I leverage tools around Tableau, Power BI, and mostly deep diving into SQL and machine learning algorithms. So I graduated back in 2021, and I have done majors in information technology. Post that, since I had a bit of interest towards data science and business analytics, I did a post graduation program from Texas universities, which was a distance learning program. And hence, I could say that was a turning point in my career, that I made a switch post that into data science field, because I started my career with cybersecurity analyst at HCL Technologies. And I think that course gave me a kickstart to be part of data science world and analytics. So yeah, that's more or less about me.
Ishita, we will start this podcast with your data science process. In our personal call, you have said about your data science process. So firstly, you will be given a problem statement, and then first you will understand the data, and you will understand the KPIs, and then you reframe the problem statement, and based on that problem statement, you will build some ML models, and after building ML models, you do the accuracy testing. After the accuracy testing is done, then based on that, you will build dashboards. You are using AI agents in order to automate these dashboards. So am I said your data science process correctly?
Yeah, Joshua, like more or less that was very accurate. So as you mentioned that, yeah, we get a problem statement, we do explore the KPIs, and of course, like exploration of the data is the primary part because there are a lot of things that goes behind the data. There are a lot of null values. We need to do a data cleanup before we get started or deep delve into the data and understand that because that is the primary or the initial point for a data scientist or a data engineer to understand and maybe to able to read the data like what data exactly holds before we get started into coding and any other stuff. So yeah, I think exploration is the primary part, and yeah, as you mentioned, followed up by exploring what algorithm can be the accurate algorithm, and post that moving towards the accuracy of algorithm, and creating a confusion matrix to understand what all the false positives and negatives are going on while you have applied that algorithm. And yeah, the last step is of course the dashboarding and giving a visualization because everybody whosoever we are trying to represent the data like marketing team and the CXOs, they better understand it visually and not by the numbers. So that's how we proceed with the data while we get it from any like client side or like senior management.
Ishita, we will start this podcast with the first step. So, first step is understanding the problem statement. When a business team has given you the problem statement, so what is the first thing you try to understand before even touching the data?
So first thing that we try to understand is, of course, let's say we have got a problem statement. So if I would like to start with one of the recent projects that I was working on, so it was basically around retail and everything. So definitely I focused on what KPIs that it needs to be leveraged into, what are the primary metrics, and that I think goes for any of the data scientists or data engineers, like what are the primary metrics that need to focus on, and how the data has been performing over the past 2 to 3 months or maybe an year. And post that, we proceed towards understanding and leveraging and deep diving into the data.
Ishita, you have been working in the tech industry for more than 3.5 years. I hope you did multiple data science projects as well. So, according to your experience, do great data scientists spend more time on understanding the problem or they spend more time on building the models?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think I was also stuck by the time I started. Like, should I be more into the machine learning algorithms and everything? But I think anybody who is associated with data field, be data scientists, data engineers, or analysts, it's very important for all of us to understand the data and do more and more exploration into data because over the period of time what I have realized is anybody who can read the raw data and can get what the data is trying to say is someone who can proceed with the correct machine learning algorithm or AI ML approach. So it's very important for the data scientist and as you asked who is a good data scientist, so anybody who can read the data and understand the data by exploring it and by deep diving into it is someone who can turn and write a better lead. It's not more or less about writing a good coding, but it's, yeah, I guess data science is more about understanding and reading the data before you start machine learning.
Well said, Dishita. So, a good data scientist, first you need to explore the data before building the ML models. Am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Ishita, like finally, a business team or a client has given you the problem statement, and you have to, find the KPIs and you have to explore the data. When a business team or a client has given you a data set for the problem statement, so what is the first 5 things you look into that data set?
Okay, so let's say if I have, as you mentioned, so first thing that I start with is to understand what is the null, like how many null values are there, and there are a lot of time. So first is that you need to explore while you're exploring the data, you need to understand, and of course you need to filter out the null values. And post that, you need to filter. Like there are many times the data is very gibberish. You let's say if there is a e-commerce data and there is a language of like there is a metric language, there are many multiple times it has happened that the language is very gibberish, it's not easy to understand. So that is also the second thing, that sometimes we have to go and proceed to a translation to understand what is that. And Yeah, before, like, I have been part of like digital data industry as well. So one thing that I used to always check while I was using leveraging my hands on over digital data is something that was to check whether every tagging or everything is functioning properly over the website. So it's very important to know we are not capturing any wrong data or anything that is not something, or maybe there are a lot of traffic that is going on and we are not able to, there is tracking not available on any of the links or something like that. So these were the few things that always go in handy to check before you start like while you are exploring the data towards and proceeding towards machine learning and coding stuff.
Okay. Ishita, like when you are given a data set, basically you perform the data science process. First, you will do the data cleaning, and after that, you will define your KPIs, and after that, you will build some ML models based on that data set, and after that, you will do accuracy testing. So, all these things we do because we have to solve some business problem. When you are given a data set, like how do you identify whether the given data set is solving business problems or not?
So yeah, like as you mentioned, in order to identify, like when you are given any data set, you need to first of all, like if I can talk about one of my project, like there was a problem statement that was already available that we need to, decrease the tele agents and chat agents amount of money that was spent or revenue that was getting consumed over these things. So as this problem existed, we have to explore the data around that. So we need to understand how the traffic is or what the data is around the support side, because anybody who is reaching out to tele agents or chat agents would be definitely going over the support side. So this was the major problem statement that come up from maybe the client side or maybe the senior stakeholders who are into it. And post that, we explore into the backend to understand how the traffic or the data is going on at the particular website or on the particular app or anything. Let's say if you are into google.com support site or any of the support that is being there, it's very important to understand how the traffic or the navigation is being done there, whether there has been any irregular data that has flown this month, and that's why we are trying to come up with an approach. Definitely not, but definitely if that problem has persisted over a period of year or maybe quarter, that's when you need to explore the data and go into the backend to explore how the particular, over a period of time, how that particular audience has been engaging on the particular app or maybe the website. So I think that's how we deal while we have the data set, and as you mentioned, these are the different followed steps that comes up along.
Ishita, like finally, after you have looked into the data set which were given by the business team, so now it's time for to defining the KPI. How do KPI influence the entire modeling approach? And also, can you please tell us like how do you decide like what metric actually matters to the business?
Yeah, sure. So what are the primary metrics that we need to understand based on the problem statement that comes up? Let's say if somebody is trying to explore the data around e-commerce or retail, I think the primary metrics would be around traffic, the visits, maybe the conversion rate, because that's what the e-commerce business or the retail business runs around. Like they run around getting product being sold. So I think these will be the primary metrics. Like conversion rate would be the primary metric, click through rate would be the primary metric. So it definitely depends, like dimensions and metrics that a data scientist or an analyst would be focusing on would be depending upon the problem statement that we are trying to solve. Let's say if there is a financial app or financial discovery or data that we are doing, then the key metrics would definitely change. It would no more remain the conversion rate or the click-through rate. It would definitely be around revenue or unique visits, something like that. So the metrics that somebody has to focus on will not remain consistent across any problem statement. It's definitely gonna vary through the problem statement that someone is trying to solve. And as you mentioned about the KPIs that somebody is focusing on, again, that is something varying upon the problem statement that comes up. Let's say if there is a problem statement that I recently mentioned, like I mentioned some time back, that we were trying to solve tele and chat agents. So what was the major thing that we were looking up was it was the self-solve rate that was a major KPI that we looked at. Because anybody who can self-solve their problem and do not have to approach towards the agents, because there are multiple KPIs that anybody would be that would be part of the data that we have been looking up. But what KPIs we have to focus on is something that can be closer and can be something that we can that can help us to solve the problem, because we are trying to reduce the cost of that. So self-solve rate was something that we focused on. Of course, we will not get exact KPI associated with the problem statement, but anything that can be a part of parameter, that can be a parameter approaching towards the problem statement solution, is something that we focus on.
So for each different industries, the KPIs will be different.
Yeah, very correct. Like if the industry is financial industry, the KPI would be something around financial risk and financial risk or something like that. And if the industry is e-commerce, retail, the KPIs would be different. Like, and the dimensions also changes as per the KPI and the problem statement.
After you got your KPIs from your business team and you have looked into your data set, now it's time for the data exploration. Ishita, like when you got a data set, what kind of insights will you look into that data set?
Okay, so let's say if talking about the recent project, if I can say, so that what I was looking for is that let's my KPI was self-solve rate. So definitely I was looking into majority of audience, like where is it coming from, like which country or region it is coming from. Again, as mentioned, each of this approach depends upon industry to industry. So if this is kind of the data set, like something around support side or e-commerce thing, definitely we go around looking at regional, like from where are we getting the major traffic, and then what is the product that is driving the major traffic, then which is the product that, or which is the symptom that is driving the major traffic. So yeah, mostly the understanding of the data goes around the traffic, but yeah, the dimension that are followed by, and what I try to understand around this is followed by region, country, language, and product as well as symptoms. So yeah, that's how it goes depending upon industry to industry.
Okay, here also data exploration is different from industry to industry.
Yeah, I mean industry to industry as well as depending upon the, like in the industry also there are many times that you have different business problem that you are trying to solve. So if you're not trying to solve a problem statement that is around like product being sold or something like that, then your approach or the primary dimension or exploration would go like turn a bit around. But yeah, the primary keys and parameters would definitely remain same. As I mentioned, like regional traffic and product traffic, that's how it goes. Like medical, it will change around. That's how it is. Like healthcare has a different type of data set. Aviation has a different type of data set.
Ishita, initially you were given a problem statement, and after that you were also given the data set as well. And have you ever had an experience that when you found an insight from that data set, like does it completely change the initial problem statement?
Yeah, I mean, in this only it happened. Like we started with an approach exploring from a completely different angle, and by the time we tried to build a model, we were in a, in a loop. How we can end up providing the same kind of training to the model that we have built, because we started with something like let's explore from country or regional level, but by the time we ended up with a machine learning approach and everything, or by the time we were at the verge of finalizing the model, we completely turned our exploration. We started exploring towards the product. So our product became the primary key, and country and everything became part of root cause analysis. So it happens while you're exploring, you have to do a lot of to and fro. There might be chances that your exploration from where you started might turn around at a different level. So yeah, it happens.
Ishita, in the introduction of this podcast, you have mentioned that you are currently working with various LLMs and also you are working with AI agents as well. According to your experience, do you think the AI agents can help in data exploration, or do you think does humans still need in data exploration?
I mean, exploration till now, I have not had gone using AI agents. Maybe later on, AI agents can be like, but while you are creating multi-agent framework, definitely agents can be there to help you do the exploration, but still human intervention would be needed. It can't be completely human free to explore the data, because as I mentioned, like once you have started an approach with a completely different angle, you end up using a completely different approach by the end of the time you are finalizing your algorithm, because it's human who might find it like it's definitely human intervention, because sometimes it's on us to decide which angle or which product KPI or key can be used as a primary key to end up with, or to provide the trained data set with machine learning algorithm.
Ishita, you have been working in this IT industry for the past 3.5 years. Let us assume a person like who has experience more than 5 years or some say 10 years. Do you think can an experienced data scientist predict a project success based on the quality of the data after data exploration?
So, as you asked, yeah, a senior data scientist or anybody who has been into the data field for a very long period of time, they have definitely dealt with a number of data. So, yeah, definitely they can help us to, as you mentioned, to get the right approach of which machine learning model would come handy. So, yeah, in fact, multiple times my senior people, like senior colleagues, have come to make me understand that this approach should not go, this approach should be right approach. So yeah, that's how, like, definitely experience definitely comes always handy.
Ishita, like finally you have done with the data exploration as well. So in the previous questions you have mentioned that after exploring the data, the problem statement will be changed. Why does the problem statement will change after exploring the data? So what is the reason behind it?
No, so I mean, is that I was not mentioning that problem statement would be changed. The problem statement would definitely remain same. The approach changes, like the way you have looked at the data, that changes. Let's say the problem statement was always to reduce the cost of something. That would never change, because that is something that we are working on it. That is our goal. That is our main focus area. The shift would be around the way we are exploring the data, the way we are trying to put the data into an algorithm or to a model. That would change, or maybe our primary dimensions would change, but the problem statement will remain persistent. So that is something which is constant, but the change that can happen would around approach and the way we looked at the data initially. By the end of the time exploration is done, the view of the data could be different. As I mentioned, that you start with we started with country and then we ended up giving product the primary importance. So that's how it. But our focus was definitely to reduce the cost. So the problem statement always remained the same.
What you are saying is the approach will change, but not the actual problem statement will change.
Yeah, I mean, problem statement can never change, because that's something has come initially to solve. So we are, because of that, the question is the same. Maybe by the time you're writing an answer in an exam, that can change, and your thoughts, your perception changes meanwhile. So similarly, in data also, while you're exploring the data, sometimes while you are looking at it, you think of going with some other way around, but by the time you end up exploring, you have some other theory around in your mind to solve that problem. So statement would definitely remain same. We can never hamper around the statement.
Ishita, like finally you have done with the data exploration. After exploring the data, you have changed the approach as well. So now it's time for the building ML models. When you are building ML models, like how do you decide like which ML model you have to use for a given project? And what separates a beginner level data scientist from an experienced data scientist while choosing this ML model?
Okay, so yeah, how do we decide which ML model we need to proceed with? Just like I was talking about one of the project that we had been doing. So because we were looking at, depends upon what we are trying to predict, what we are trying to solve. So if we are trying to solve, or if we are trying to detect an anomaly or anything like that, then there are certain specific models that has been used over the period of time. So while you're doing any case study or something like that, or while you are reading through the data studies, everything, we get to understand what models can be used So we can try, like, it's a hit and run kind of thing. So we can try, like, for this we started with isolation forest or z-score prediction, in order to, because let's say it's an anomaly, then you are trying to filter out certain things. But and as you're asking, what is the role of a senior data scientist? So as we discussed before, definitely that person who has been part of the data in and out, has dealt with multiple projects, has seen, variant of data, it will be very easy for him to understand, like, which machine learning approach could come in handy, and which model training would give us a very better result compared to the previous one. But of course, you will have to do a lot of alteration to the model, a lot of alteration to the parameters. But at least you can rely on the thing that this is the model that you will be proceeding with. So that is the importance of senior data scientists or senior people in the team. And yeah, definitely, it's very different from what we see as a beginner. Let's say even I am into beginner while I'm into data science. People who have been very senior to me, like 10 to 12 years, they can easily tell, like, this approach would be go, because they have done similar kind of projects in the past. They have seen what data would react to different models. So that's how it is.
Ishita, like in the data exploration part, you have said that till now AI agents are not a part of this data exploration. In this choosing AML models also, can AI agents choose the ML models?
I mean, yeah, of course, agents can do that in later on. I have yet not explored that field yet, because even if you put, let's say you're using Gemini or ChatGPT, if I ask them, this is the kind of data, this is the problem statement, please suggest me what machine learning approach I can go with, the Gemini itself would suggest a lot of options. And like 90% of accuracy comes with that. Like this, let's say if I'm asking about e-commerce and my problem statement is reducing the cost, Gemini would give me an answer that I need to follow with z-score, I need to follow with isolation forest or random forest approach. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a possibility that AI agents can do that later on if somebody tries to explore that way. So there is a high chance of agents to come into that field.
Ishita, like finally you were given a data set and you have explored the data, and based on that exploration, you have chosen some ML model for the data. So now it's time for the accuracy testing. How do you measure the accuracy of a ML model you did for a given data set? And do you think can a highly accurate model still fail in the real world application?
Okay, so how do we do the accuracy testing is something, we created a confusion matrix where we try to understand, definitely we try to reduce all the false negatives into that. So all the true positive needs to be part of it. So that's how you have a data, you have the KPI value, and you create the, like, matrix of false positive, false negative, true positive, and true negatives. And if there is a high like possibility, or you're getting a high number of false negatives, definitely you try to alter the parameters that you have been using.
Ishita, the problem statement sometimes will be given by the clients, and sometimes we have to fulfill the stakeholder expectations as well. Have you ever faced a situation where the stakeholder expectations are unrealistic with the accuracy testing?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple times that the stakeholders sometimes do not understand what we are trying to make them understand. And hence, around that, their expectation changes. Like they come up with something like that the revenue should be this much or something like that. But ideally, that is not a possible case scenario, or we cannot help it until unless something changes around the sales and marketing. So yeah, because it's very different from different picture from what they are seeing on the other side of the table to what is going in the back end of the data. So this happens a lot of time that but yeah, they do not hinder around the accuracy of model because they do not understand that much in the machine learning and everything. But yeah, they can hinder around the approach to bring up the revenue or to bring up the cost or something like that.
So Ishita, like finally you have completed the accuracy testing also. So now it's time for the creating dashboards. How do dashboards influence the business decisions, and what are the common mistakes does people generally make while creating this dashboard?
Okay, so definitely dashboards like come up with visualization. So anybody who's looking at the dashboard needs to be easily understand what is going on in the data. Let's say if you have created a bar charts or pie charts, it will help the business team to easily understand like how the particular product has been performing. But definitely it's very important for us to give them a walkthrough of how the dashboard would be performing, because there are different filters, there are different calculated metrics that come up. And talking about the mistakes that can be done while creating the dashboard is, sometimes you as an analyst or as a scientist sitting behind on the other side of the table, we create charts and something which do not go correctly with what we could have made them easily understand with some other visualization. Let's say we could make a product table or product chart that could be easily understood with the help of bar charts, to see which product has rose up in the ladder over the period of time. But if you try to make them understand with the help of pie chart, it would be a little difficult to even visualize that for the business or CXOs. So yeah, sometimes it happens that a different visualization is selected which should not have been, and sometimes engineers and scientists or analysts make wrong approach in the calculated field or calculated metric, because all the dimensions are not present in the data table or in this backend. There are multiple times that you have to create or calculate a field or a metric in order to put it on the visualization like Tableau or Power BI.
Ishita, in our personal call, you have mentioned that you are using AI agents in order to automate these dashboards. How exactly are you using AI agents in order to automate dashboards, and which parts are being automated and which parts need still human judgment?
Okay. So, which, like, of course, human touch would be required while you're trying to create the visualization. As I mentioned, like, an agent cannot, till now, I have not come across that an agent can detect which visualization you need to proceed with, because that is something that comes up with experience or hold or maybe reading of different multiple datas. And as you asked, what ecosystem or where we can deploy agents, it's like agent is something that is like there are multiple steps that comes up with, like you have the brain, which is definitely LLM and RAG. Then you have the tools, which is like function calling or something like that. Like agent isn't something just a chatbot. It has got hands. So through APIs, it can query SQL and database to check real-time problem. And then we proceed towards the multi-agent framework, where we can set up a team of specialized agent using frameworks like LangGraph or Crew AI.
Ishita, in this question only, you have mentioned a term called multi-agent framework. So, can you briefly explain about like what is multi-agent framework?
Okay, so yeah. So multi-agent framework, there are like three key pointers that come up with this. So one is the analyst agent, which is constantly monitoring the ML models and outputs on the dashboard. Then there is the investigator agent, which is if any random or any anomaly or outlier is spotted, the agent digs into the dashboard and search logs to find out what is the root cause or something like that. And third one is the action agent. So it drafts a summary to fix and alerts the specific engineering team via maybe Slack or Teams. So this automatically updates the search synonym in the library. And ultimately it turns the dashboard into a proactive team member that preserves the KPI.
Ishita, you have been working in the industry for more than 3.5 years. So you have started your career when there is no boom about these AI agents and stuff. What was the workflow before these AI agents came, and what is the current workflow after the AI agents come? And also, how much time are you saving while using these AI agents?
Okay, so yeah, I think AI agent is a boom that has come up in past 6 to 7 months, if I remember correctly. By the time I was into this industry, we had to be actively over there on the dashboard to monitor if there has been any discrepancy going on. We have to monitor if there is any outlier or anomaly detected. You have to go in back into the search logs and search into the data set, like what went wrong, if there has been any breakage in the data or schema. After the AI agent that has come up and everybody has started using it, I think it's of great help. It has definitely automated a lot of things. As I can say, it's basically like you have set up a camera to monitor what is happening around, So somebody has to sit there, like a security guard has to sit there. That was the duty of data analyst or someone who is monitoring the dashboard. But after the agents have come, they will do everything, like as we discussed. It will analyze if there is an anomaly, it will find out, it will send it to the engineering team that this has been done wrong and what can be fixed. So yeah, maybe automating and using AI agents on the dashboard currently, that's what I'm doing, has reduced a lot of time, and that can be, put into somewhere else while doing more and more recursively searching on the machine learning and everything.
Ishita, you have been exploring about these AI agents for the past, I think, 6 months. And I hope you have used multiple tools and softwares while you implement these AI agents in your workflow. So can you please tell us what are the tools and softwares you have used in implementing these AI agents in your workflow?
Yeah, sure, Joshua. So I think, yeah, this was something that I also wanted to address. If you want to build agents visually by connecting boxes or managing flows and plugging in tools without any complex coding, because agents can be done. It's not just for developers; it is best also for non-developers. So there is a tool named BootPress. It is highly popular, and it visually basically a drag and drop. So it's very easy to build agent. Then there is Flowwise or maybe Langflow. So this is basically an open house UI builder tool which can be used to create. Then we have Core Studio as well. That this is one of the powerful visual platform developed by I think it is developed by ByteDance or something, and that lets you quickly build agent across. So you don't need to put a lot of coding and use a lot of plugins over there. So these are the few tools I think that can be used. So these were the tools that I was talking about non-developers. Anybody who do not have much background into coding can go with these 3 tools.
Okay. Ishita, everybody will challenge when they are learning something new. While you are also learning these AI agents, or while you are also implementing those AI agents in your workflow, what are the challenges you have faced?
So while we were, of course, learning is something that is a very different thing. And of course, being in part of tech industry, there are a lot of learning every time comes up after the introduction of AI that has come into this. So challenges that I faced was definitely finding the correct source to explore and learn. And luckily I've been part of great team. So a lot of sources was available that was in-house by the organization. And there were few times that I had to do and explore content around YouTube or sometimes Coursera, something like that. And yeah, a lot of time it's very easy to just do GPT, like ChatGPT is very easily available, and Gemini, you can easily put questions out there and we'll get an answer. So yeah, that's how it is.
Ishita, this is the final question for this podcast. So according to your experience, what skills will matter most for the upcoming data scientist in the agentic AI era?
So even in what skill would matter the most is something I would suggest not to run behind understanding or machine learning approach, like which machine learning needs to be this. It's best always to try to understand the data first, and I think that skill will always be, has been and will always be the most primary skill that a data scientist or anybody associated with data in field in the data needs to know, that how they can deep dive into data and what the data is trying to tell you. And post that only you can explore and go around agentic AI or AI agents, anything. Like these are primarily the tools, but yeah, the base is of course the data and how you can read the data. That is the most important thing.
Okay. So Ishita, you have given some of your valuable time, and you have given a plenty of information to my audience. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time for me as well as for my audience. Once again, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think I'm really thankful to you as well, as that I can be of some help, and my experience and my knowledge can be helpful to your audience. So yeah, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you, Ishita. So this is all about Ishita's experience of implementing AI agents in her data science workflow. So if you got new information through this podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications just by hitting that bell icon. So this is your Joshua Kumnakar. signing off.